You know, I think it's safe to say that April in Helsinki is not springtime. What's up, guys, and welcome back to A Sense of Travel. I'm Michael, and I'm on a mission on this channel to document all 5 senses of as many cities, countries, and natural landmarks around the world as I possibly can, so that I can bring those experiences to you through the screen. Well, this week, I am in the freezing but beautiful Finnish capital of Helsinki. I am stoked to bring you guys along through all 5 senses, so let's dive in.
28 degrees Fahrenheit doesn't feel so cold in Helsinki. That's what I kept reminding myself as I battled the wind, snow, and bitter cold on a spring week in the city. I must not be alone in thinking this. Finland is regularly ranked the happiest country in the world, and Helsinki, one of the northernmost capital cities, is one of the most livable ones. Whether the outside is cold or not, the people here are genuinely friendly and warm, and there's just a true sense of contentment in the air. To experience Helsinki and understand that feeling of contentment that it evokes from the screen isn't possible through still photos or videos alone. To get a sense of Helsinki virtually, all 5 senses need to be stimulated. What does the air feel like? What scents fill your nostrils as you wander around the regal streets? What tastes capture the essence of the Finnish experience? My goal today is to immerse you into the Helsinki experience in a way that leaves you feeling as if you've trekked through the freezing snow just to de-thaw in a piping hot Finnish sauna, too. So, let's dive in. At the heartbeat of Helsinki is its old town, Centrum. Now, Centrum is both beautiful and humble. Despite the sense of grandeur in its streets, you would never think you were in a major city as you wander them. Now, while the city is home to nearly 700,000 people with over 1.5 million in the greater metropolitan area, you get more of a sense that you're in a quiet, charming, and rather isolated port town. Set on a grid, Centrum is lined with low-rise buildings and cream-colored plaster facades, similar to other Nordic capitals. And I suppose the bright, cheery colors help people get through those long winters. Fairly wide boulevards cut through the heart of town, lined with trees and screeching tram lines. Breaking up the grid of streets are large, cobbled squares. Probably the most famous avenue cutting through the heart of town is Alexander in Katu. Nicknamed Alexi, this is Helsinki's main street. It's also the longest street in the city. At Christmas time, Alexi becomes Helsinki's official Christmas street. Now, if you know me, you know that I'm bummed to miss out on the Christmas time experience in the capital of the country where Santa Claus himself originated.
Now, the architecture along this street is really beautiful. It's a lot of romantic and neoclassical architecture. Within about 4 or 5 story ranges, the color palette is pretty muted but still warm. So it's a lot of browns and creamy yellows and a lot of brick and stone. So it's really beautiful.
The dark, metallic roof lines over the city streets, along with the delicate architecture and the indoor gallerias, are a bit reminiscent of Stockholm, Sweden. On snowy days, everything looks like a Christmas card. It is a bit cold here, and of course, on the days where it poured snow, this feeling was multiplied by like 10. But hey, at least it was pretty.
You'll hear the sounds of cars kind of going along the cobbled streets, as you can hear there. You'll also get the sounds of tram lines that kind of screech through the streets. You can hear the breeze. On the hour, you can hear the church bells from the cathedrals. The Helsinki Cathedral, Uspensky Cathedral are nearby, so you hear those church bells. And just footsteps on the stone. The air smells pretty fresh. Fresh air. I don't know, that's a scent, right? But you'll also get that scent of ice and fallen snow. A bit of the stone. You can actually smell the stone. And a bit of cigarette smoke as well.
Helsinki's archipelago is located on the southern tip of Finland, right on the edge of the Baltic Sea. That said, You'll hear seagulls crying in the distance, especially as you approach the icy harbor on which the old town sits, where the air begins to smell like icy saltwater. Ice and snow are pretty common themes here in the Great Wide North. Even the tourist shops are filled top to bottom with items themed to polar bears, meese, furs, and snow. There's also a lot of Santa Claus lore, as of course Finland is where the Christmas legend began. Helsinki may embrace that subarctic nature, but along the harbor, there are several outdoor swimming pools that are so warmly heated that you can see the steam as it rises above them. Steamy pools and saunas aren't the only way it seems that the Finns escape the cold. There are a bunch of indoor gallerias throughout the old town which are like little shopping malls. These are perfect ways to cut through to other streets on a particularly windy and cold day. Helsinki has plenty of Western chains, they even have their own brand of Target, but in a picturesque little brick building off the market square, you get away from chains altogether, in the Old Town Market.
So the Old Helsinki Market is the oldest continually operating market here in Helsinki. It was opened back in the 1800s. It's in this beautiful building right off the market square. It's really cool. It's got a bunch of fresh seafood, cool little restaurants with delicious Nordic, Scandinavian, and specifically Finnish cuisine. There's a place selling reindeer over there, which I'm a little iffy about, but it's a pretty cool market. It's small and humble, but it smells delicious.
Just a block or so over, you're back on Aleksi Street.
Now, Aleski Street reaches all the way down to the famous Senate Square, which is where Helsinki's most iconic landmark towers over the horizon.
Right on Senate Square, the city's main square and the seat of the Finnish government, sits the magnificent Helsinki Cathedral, a neoclassical masterpiece. Completed in 1852, this Lutheran church, often considered one of the most progressive and accepting of the Christian denominations, is one of Finland's most famous structures. The bright white plaster facade is graced by beautiful bronze domes decorated in golden stars and guarded by white statues. Inside, the plaster interior is also painted in white and a pale blue, centered by the cup of the dome with 4 smaller domes off to the side. Golden chandeliers hang down low. It's quiet in here and it smells of musty wood and carpet. While the Helsinki Cathedral is considered the main landmark of the city, I found that a different cathedral in the city is twice as impressive in its grandeur and beauty, the Uspensky Cathedral. Consecrated in 1868, this Greek Orthodox church is the largest of its kind in Northern Europe. Built in a red brick Russian revivalist architecture, Uspensky is just as magnificent on the inside as it is on the outside. Inside the nave, the cathedral smells like incense and is immaculately decorated in murals and gold alongside the soft brown walls. The pale blue dome is painted with golden stars and the chandeliers hang low above the felt red carpets.
So what makes the Finns so happy? Well, that's a question I'm trying to answer throughout this adventure, but one of the reasons I think makes sense is the fact that they're so well educated. There's actually 100% literacy rate among Finns, and their values in education are really exemplified by their institutions.
In addition to their happiness accolades, Helsinki has been ranked multiple times as one of the world's most livable cities. Given how cold it is for most of the year, they kinda need an indoor living room of sorts. Enter the Udi Library.
Now, if it's any testament to the value of education and enlightenment to the Finns and the reason that they're so happy, the Udi Library is commonly referred to as the city's living room.
A living room indeed. Built with a modern Finnish architectural style, the beautiful library certainly feels like the place to gather. It isn't just books. Couches, cafes, play areas, beautiful overlooks of the city's spires and nature, board games, and even a restaurant make for a true community gathering space. The white ceiling on the top floor, which looks like a canvas billowing in the wind, sits above panoramic glass windows dusted in snow, streaming natural light from all angles onto the bright, beige wooden floors. You'll hear the sounds of families playing, echoing footsteps on hardwood, and the chatter of groups hanging out while a sense of paper books and new fabric fills your nostrils. So what makes the Finns so happy? Well, perhaps it's the proximity to nature. About 40% of Helsinki is dedicated to green spaces. Of course, they're only technically green for about half the year, but still. Kaivopuisto Park is one of those places.
So Kaivopuisto Park is perhaps the oldest and probably the most well-known park in Helsinki. It's beautiful. I mean, I'm sure there are times of year where it's much greener than this, but it's beautiful. Very peaceful. All you can really hear, at least at this point, is the sound of snow crunching beneath your feet, birds chirping, boat horns from the sea. It's not as cold today, and definitely not very breezy, so it's actually kind of comfortable out here. It's beautiful. It's up on a hillside. You've got the observatory up here. It's an Ursa Observatory, the highest point in the park. And then, of course, the neighborhood that surrounds this park is full of embassies. Like, I know the embassy for the United States is over here. The embassy for the Netherlands is over here, and one of the oldest villa houses, however you say it. That's a beautiful experience.
It smells like pine trees and snow. From atop the pinnacle of the park at the Ursa Observatory, you get a clear view of just how many islands make up the Helsinki archipelago. You'll also notice multiple bronze steeples poking out of the otherwise flat skyline of black tin roofs. Part of the Finnish Museum of Natural History, the Kaisaniemi Botanical Gardens sit on the opposite end of Centrum near the train station. Beautiful glass greenhouses adorn the garden park, keeping a wide array of greenery alive and well throughout the year. While they aren't super packed on a snowy spring day, I'm sure that in the summer, both Kaisaniemi and Kaivopuisto are absolutely covered by Helsinki locals soaking up the sun. Finland's culture and heritage are a huge component of the Helsinki experience. In fact, there's one element of the culture that's been a pillar of life here since as far back as 7000 BC.
Now here's something I didn't realize. If it's snowing in Helsinki, it's a good idea to have your bathing suit ready. That's because it's on days like today that it's perfect to engage in that finest of Finnish traditions.
As it is often said, here in Finland, saunas are not just a place to bathe, but they're considered to be a place of physical and spiritual purification, relaxation, and even just socialization. Lula is a famous sauna on the edge of the city, right against the Baltic Sea. The experience here is actually really wholesome. In the wooden lodge are several public sauna rooms, one of which is an outdoor cabin where you can just hang out and sweat with locals and tourists alike. I met some really cool people in here. The saunas are like wooden boxes with stepped wooden benches and a massive tin bucket of burning and steaming black rocks. It smells of hot cedar wood and it feels, well, ridiculously hot. Like hard to breathe hot. You can hear the crashing waves from the Baltics against the wooden dock. Suomenlinna is a sea fortress that's set over a series of 6 islands and was built in the 1700s. To get there, you need to take a ferry across the harbor. If you're me, waiting for the boat can be a bit gross.
Is it bad luck in Finland if a bird diarrheas on you? Because that just happened.
Update on this, it's actually very good luck. But anyway, back to Suomenlinna. Once across the murky brown harbor, you arrive at the shore of this gargantuan UNESCO World Heritage Site. No, around 850 people actually live on the Suomenlinna Islands, which once served as Finland's key naval fortress. Today, there are museums, restaurants, shops, a church, and of course the Castle of Finland.
Now, to place yourself imaginatively here into the Suomenlinna fortress on one of the 8 islands. Well, imagine the sense of salt water and ice, which pretty much permeates all of Helsinki at this point in the year. Imagine really cold air. If you're me and you're holding the camera, your fingers are numb, so it's really cold. You really don't hear much except for the sound of footsteps on gravel, seagulls, which there are plenty of, and I guess occasional tour groups. But it is a pretty quiet spot. And it's interesting, of course, because in any other city, I would say that sailing across the harbor to visit a remote island where only 850 people live would feel like an escape. But in Helsinki, there's really no reason to escape. It's already a quiet and calm and picturesque, relaxing city.
At the edge of Suomenlinna is something that you really can't capture in the heart of the city.
I'll go ahead and tell you, there's nowhere else on the planet that 28 degrees Fahrenheit feels this warm. Gazing out over the Baltic Sea and the archipelago that makes up Helsinki is an absolutely blissful experience. It's cold, but the sun is shining, and it's beautiful and it's peaceful. I mean, all you can hear is the sound of the water just gently clapping against the stone. Occasional seagulls and birds chirping. But this is perfect. This is absolutely perfect. I can only imagine what it must be like in the summertime. But wow.
There are a lot of random things I noticed around Helsinki that I wanted to point out. A lot of things are only open from May to September. Things open pretty late on Saturdays. Aleksi, as a main street, isn't much of a tourist spot because, in general, Helsinki doesn't really seem to cater to tourism. People are extremely warm and kind. They're quiet, but they're warm. There aren't nearly as many American chains as I expected there to be. There are very few Starbucks in the city center, and I've really only seen one McDonald's. There aren't really a ton of tourists or souvenir shops. The ones that are here focus on Nordic themes and, of course, Santa Claus. Not so much Scandinavian themes, which makes sense because Finland's technically not on the Scandinavian peninsula. The city doesn't shut down at all when it snows. It doesn't feel like a big city at all. A medium city for sure, but not big. I feel like you could, in theory, walk the entire thing in a day or two. The less cold and windy it is, the more you smell the sea salt. They drink actual coffee here, which is great, not just espresso. The vertical wooden sauna architecture is pretty popular here. There's not a lot of conversation out there on Finnish cuisine, and I'd like to address this. Finnish food is absolutely underrated, and if I say so myself, it's the best cuisine of all the Nordic countries. Here are just a few of the classic Finnish dishes I tried in Helsinki that gave me such a strong opinion on the matter. Lahikeito, or salmon soup. A traditional soup here in Finland is called lahikeito. This soup is warm, creamy, and salmony, and perfect for a cold day. Filled with potatoes, a creamy broth, and salmon, it comes self-served with soft rye bread, another Nordic staple, and a baguette. Blueberry pie. A classic Finnish dessert, and just like a buttery blueberry muffin, this square slice of pie was warm and moist and just the right amount of blueberry-ish. I tried mine at Cafe Silo on Suomenlinna Island. Smoked salmon and black bread. At Cafe Engel, right off the Senate Square, I had smoked salmon on black bread toast. The salmon was fresh, the cream cheese spread was rich, and the brown bread bittersweet and firm. It was so thick I had to eat it with a fork. If you're in Finland, I'd definitely recommend this. Karjalan piraka, or Karelian pie. At Cafe Ursula in the Kaivopuisto Park, I tried Karelian pie, and this thing tastes just like the comfort of home, especially if scrambled eggs and potatoes are your forte. Rye bread, scrambled eggs, potatoes, and butter make up this pierogi-style pastry, and I really can't recommend it enough. Finnish meat pies. Found at the Old Market, this Finnish meat pie is a typical street food made of golden brown dough, ground meat, and, weirdly, ketchup. It had a very carnival-y taste, almost like a corn dog. Lonkero, or long drinks. Long drinks are a Finnish staple. They also come with ice. That's kind of crazy to me. They're delicious. There's a definite tartness to it. Cloudy and clear, this drink blends perfectly with the snowy sky. As with most of the world's major cities, capturing the full Helsinki experience in 1 week, especially if you have a normal-sized wallet, isn't possible. Every city is complex, multi-layered, and rich in its history, identity, and story, and the Finnish capital is no exception. My hope, however, is that by diving in with me through all 5 senses, you were able to place yourself imaginatively into the regal streets, moss-covered islands, steaming saunas, and majestic cathedrals in a way that made you feel like you were experiencing Helsinki alongside me. As always, thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you next time.